Hello everybody, today we are looking at conversions and we're going to start off with the metric system. The metric system is what we use in Canada and it's used basically all over the world outside of the US and some other countries. It's the easiest to use because you don't have to memorize a whole bunch of different conversions. You just have to memorize sort of the basic units, and then everything from that is the exact same thing. So they're all spaced out by 10. So essentially if you look at our chart here, there's a couple cute little sentences to help you remember, but essentially it's kilo, hecto, deca, the regular unit, deci, centa, milla, and it kind of keeps going in either direction. So each of these is 10. So 10 meters or liters or grams fits into centa, centa into deca, 10 deca into the regular unit, and so on. So if you can remember this chart, the rest of all of your conversions work out nicely from there. The other one that you will have to know that you'll use in, is used in a lot of medicines and things like that, is 1 milligram is 1,000 micrograms. And we use kind of that little, almost like a little U symbol, or MCG. Either one means micro. So if we were to extend this out, your third one here would be the micrograms. Okay, so that's sort of an extension that would benefit you in your trade. Okay, so let's look at actually doing some conversions here. So the first thing I like to do is to actually draw that line. So here we're going from meters to decimeters. So little d is deca. So let's draw our little kind of chart. In the center we have meters, and we get decimeters, centimeters, millimeters, and up here we have decameters, hectometers, and kilometers. Okay, so to jump from meters to decimeters, we're doing one jump to the right, or essentially we are going to be multiplying by one factor of 10. So if we write our number out, however many jumps you do and the direction you do it, that's the same thing you're going to do to the decimal point in the number. So in this case, I'm going to take this decimal point and I'm going to jump one more spot to the right, just like I did on our little scale there. So the number becomes 452,000 decimeters. Okay. Let's try another one. So 2.834 hectograms to milligrams. So again, I'm going to draw out my line. Grams goes right in the center. Then I get decigrams, centigrams, milligrams, decagrams, hectograms, kilograms. Okay, I see how many jumps it takes to get from, in this case, hectograms to milligrams. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps to the right. So I'm going to do that same thing in my number. So there's my decimal point. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jumps to the right. So it becomes 283,400 milligrams. So 283,400 milligrams. Okay. Try another one here. So again, we do this out, draw this out. We get In this case, it's liters. So our liters is here. Decaliters, hectoliters, kiloliters, deciliters, milliliters, centiliters, milliliters. So in this case, I'm going from milliliters to decaliters. 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to the left. So I'm going to take my number and I'm going to do 4 jumps. 1, 2, 3, 4 jumps to the left. So I get 0.0942 deciliters. Okay. Now let's try one with our micrograms. Again, if I draw out my line, I end up with grams here. Then I have decigrams, centigrams, milligrams, and you remember we have 3 more lines to get to our micrograms. So to get from grams to micrograms, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps to the right. So I'm going to do the same thing with the decimal point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps to the right. Okay, so I get 45,000 micrograms. Okay, let's look at this in terms of some word problems. So a low-strength chewable aspirin tablet contains 81 milligrams of aspirin per tablet. How many tablets may be prepared from 1 kilogram of aspirin? So here we're asked, we have a total number and we're told how many is in each. So whenever we're given a total and how much is in each, that leads me to believe that we need to do some sort of division, right? But I have kilograms and I have milligrams, and you can never do, whenever you're doing something like this, dividing by an each, you want to have them within the same units, right? They have to be in the same units. So it doesn't matter whether you put them into kilograms or milligrams as long as they're both in the same. So I'm going to put my kilograms into milligrams. So I have kilograms, hectograms, decagrams, grams, decigrams, centigrams, milligrams. So I'm going to need to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jumps to the right. So my 1 kilogram, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the right. Becomes 1 million milligrams. So now I'm going to take my 1 million milligrams and divide it by 81 milligrams. And I get 12,345.679 tablets. So how many tablets can be prepared? Well, we can actually prepare 12,345 tablets. Okay, just like when you're rounding with people, you have to round, we have to go to a whole number. We don't want to say we can make half a tablet or so on. We need to make them whole tablets, but we also need to round down. So even though This gave us a 6 here, which usually tells us we need to round up. We don't have quite enough aspirin to make that 12,346th tablet. So we can't actually round up in this case. So in your industry, or normal rounding rules don't necessarily apply. You need to think about it logically to know whether you round up or down. For the most part, you need to round down actually in your industry, because rounding up could cause an overdose, or you're not going to have enough medication to make that next one. So be careful here with your rounding rules. But because I can't make a whole nother tablet, I need to round down in this case. So 12,345 tablets can be made from 1 kilogram of aspirin. Okay, let's look at another one. How many colchicine tablets, each containing 600 micrograms, can be prepared from 300 grams of colchicine? So the first thing I see, I have an each, and I have a total. So again, we're doing a division here, but I have grams and micrograms, so I need to convert. So I'm going to take my 30 grams and put it into micrograms. Again, I have grams, decagrams, centigrams, milligrams, micrograms. So I'm going to jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times to get to micrograms. So my 30 becomes 30 million. Okay. So now I'm going to take that number, divide it by the 600 micrograms, and I get 50,000 right on tablets. Okay, next one. An inhalation aerosol contains 225 milligrams of metaproterenol sulfate, which is sufficient for 300 inhalations. How many micrograms are in each inhalation? So we have how much the whole thing contains and how many inhalations it takes. So we're going to again do a division. So I have 225 milligrams divided by my 300 inhalations. Gives me 0.75 milligrams per inhalation. But it's asking for micrograms. So that means I need to take my milligrams and turn it into micrograms, which is 1, 2, 3 jumps. Which is 1, 2, 3 jumps. So I'm going to take my 0.75, do 1, 2, 3 jumps, which tells me that each inhalation has 750 micrograms in it. Okay, so that is the metric system. You can practice this from the textbook using pages 90 and 91. And next we're going to get into converting between and converting in the imperial system using the proportions that we practiced last week. Okay, so here we are looking at conversions between systems, looking at the imperial system and, how do you convert between the imperial and the metric system. So the imperial system is what is used in the United States, and so often times in Canada we use some of them as well, just because, we pair with the states quite often, so we kind of use a bit of both. The kind of negative side to the imperial system is that each conversion is sort of a different amount. So it's not like the metric system where you know just have to memorize sort of that one scale and go from there. Each of them, these are different. However, to do the actual conversion, the math behind them, it's just using proportions essentially. So let's take a look at some of these. So these are the ones that you're going to need. I will provide them on a test, so don't feel like you have to memorize these. But these are the ones we're going to be using in class. Okay, so if you need to pause the video and write this down, go ahead. We're going to do some examples. So how many ounces are in 45 milliliters? So we look at our chart and we try and find one that has ounces in milliliters, or you might have to do more than one. But I see that in our table we have 1 ounce equals 30 milliliters. So I'm going to take 1 ounce and use that as a ratio. 1 ounce, 30 milliliters. So I put the ratio for the conversion on one side. We do our equal sign. And the question is asking how many ounces are in 45 milliliters. So again, I'm just using proportions like we did last week to set this up. Once we have this, we're going to do sort of a cross multiplying here. So we end up with 30x equals 45. And then I have to divide the 45 by 30 to figure out, to solve for x. So 45 divided by 30 is 1.5. So there's 1.5 ounces in 45 milliliters. Okay, let's look at the next one. How many kilograms are in 110 pounds? So in our list we have 1 kilogram is 2.2 pounds. So I use that to set up my one ratio. And then I have how many kilograms is 110 pounds. So again, I do a little cross multiplication here. And I get 2.2x equals 110. And then I need to do 110 divided by 2.2. I get 50. So there's 50 kilograms in 110 pounds. Okay, so let's look at another one here. How many milliliters are there in half cup of coffee? So if we look at our chart, we have cup to ounces and ounces to milliliters, but we don't have a cup to milliliters. So there's two ways you can do that. You can use the proportions like we've been doing and do it in sort of 2 stages, or there is another method you can use to get there in one go. So I know some of you, half a cup isn't, that's not a hard number to use, so you can probably do this quite quickly, but I want you to try and use the whole process with these numbers just so you can practice the actual process with smaller numbers so that when the numbers aren't as easy to spot, you still know what to do. So if we do it the exact same way we've been doing it with the proportions, we have 1 cup is 8 ounces, half a cup is how many ounces? Okay, so we want to go 2 ounces first. So I'm going to cross multiply, and I get x equals 4 ounces. So 8 times half is 4. So then I do 1 ounce is 30 milliliters. How many milliliters is 4 ounces? So again, I'm going to cross multiply, and I get x equals 120 milliliters. Okay, so my final answer here is 120 milliliters. If you want to do it in one go, how you can do this is by actually multiplying the ratios so that the units cancel out. So you want one of the units, so I want cup on the top and one cup on the bottom, so that they kind of cancel each other out as they go. So it's a little bit different than how we set up our normal proportions, where we want the units across from each other. In this case, because they're not they're on the same side of the equal sign, not on opposite sides of the equal sign, we actually want the units to be opposite each other or different from each other. So in this case, I would write my half cup, and I'm going to multiply it by the ratio 1 cup is 8 ounces. But because I have cup on the top, on this side, I want the cup to be on the bottom. Now I'm going to multiply it by my 1 ounce equals 30 milliliters. But again, ounces is on the top here, so I want my 1 ounce on the bottom and my 30 milliliters on top. So now if I cancel it out, I have cup on the top, cup on the bottom, ounces on the top, ounces on the bottom, and you'll notice I'm left with milliliters, which is what I'm trying to convert to. So altogether, I'm going to do 0.5 times 8 divided by 1, which is nothing, times 30 divided by 1. So I end up doing 0.5 times 8 times 30, which equals 120 milliliters. So I end up with the same answer. It's up to you which one you do, or if you have even a different method you use to do this. All are perfectly acceptable, but these are just two of the ways that these can be done. Okay, so let's go to another question. Let's scroll down to number 5. Okay, so a patient had the following: 10 ounces of coffee, 8 ounces of water, 6 ounces of vegetable broth, and it wants to know the total input in milliliters. So the word total is giving me a good indication that I need to add here. So I'm going to add 10 plus 8 plus 6, which gives me 24 ounces. But I want this in milliliters, and I know 1 ounce is 30 milliliters. So 1 ounce, 30 milliliters equals how many ounces? Equals 24 ounces is how many milliliters? And again, I'm going to do some cross multiplying here. So I get X equals 720 milliliters. So that means the patient had an input of 720 milliliters. Okay, let's look at number 6 here. If 1 glass equals 6 ounces and a patient had 3/4 of a glass of milk, 4 ounces of water, 2 ounces of beef broth, what was the total input in milliliters? So again, total input is telling me that I need to add, but at this time, I don't have all the same units. So I'm going to put this 34 glasses of milk into ounces first so that I can add the ounces all together. So I have 1 glass is 6 ounces, 3/4 glass is how many ounces? So I'm going to do some cross multiplying here, and I get X equals 4.5 ounces. So 4.5 ounces is how much milk. Okay, so now I'm going to add those together. So I get 4.5 plus 4 plus 2 is 10.5 ounces altogether. We want this in milliliters. 1 ounce is 30 milliliters. So I get 1 ounce, 30 milliliters, 10.5 ounces is how many milliliters? Do some cross multiplying. I get X equals 315 milliliters. So all together, they took in 315 milliliters. Okay, let's take a look at number 7. A patient is prescribed 7.5 milliliters of cough suppressant every 4 hours. How many teaspoons of medicine should the patient take every 4 hours? So what throws people off here is they see the every 4 hours, but if you look, the every 4 hours is repeated in both ratios, so we don't actually, it really doesn't matter that it's 4 hours. It could be 10 hours, 6 hours, 2 hours. It really doesn't matter because the 4 hours is consistent. So they're basically just asking us, well, how many teaspoons is 7.5 milliliters? So we look over at our list. We have 1 teaspoon is 5 milliliters. So how many teaspoons is 7 milliliters? Do some cross multiplying, and I get 5x equals 7. So x equals 1.4 teaspoons. Okay, so to practice these conversions, it is page 99 to 101 in your textbook. If you are on my Wednesday night classes, you are section 80, that is the evening class. So that your assignment 2 is due the February 20th and your test 1 is March 6th. If you are on my Thursday lunchtime class, then you are section 1 and your assignment is due the 21st. Test 1, March 7th. So please take a look at all the practice problems. If you have any questions, please let me know through my email, or you can speak to me next class. Have a great weekend.